Stijn and Leigh, welcome to the Pacey Performance Podcast. Thanks for jumping on at such short notice. No, my pleasure, and congratulations on a great season. Just before we dive into the intricacies of what's made this season such a successful one for you guys, Stijn, would you mind just giving us a bit of a brief bio, please?
Yep. That's quite a simple question with a complex answer, I guess. So, we work at Feyenoord, obviously. We play champion, and I think the journey started a few years ago when we consciously decided to change the structure in the club to provide the best environment to be successful. Together with the board and a lot of confidence from the board, they decided to bring in Sportsology. That's a company who works on strategy and sports strategy structures. So, long story short, we changed the structure and we made medical. If I can speak for my responsibilities, then we made a medical and performance department as one. Yeah. So we created one football department actually where there is a very good emphasis on communication, on staff DNA. And I think that provided the necessary structure and framework to create a new culture within the club, a culture of elite performance where it's normal to be fit as a player, where football players are seen like athletes and behave like athletes, and that it is actually only our task to support the technical staff and our manager Arne Slot in providing the maximal availability, robustness, and maximal performance, physical output every game. So I think that's one of the most important ingredients prior to the success story that started last season with the appointment of Arne Slot, with a very clear football vision and a very well translation into a training vision. Yeah. Obviously, when Arne Slot started at the club with his technical department, the football style we play, it's a high press, it's very intense, very energetic. It demanded quite some new challenges. It provided quite some new challenges for the physical and medical departments to implement a physical framework for every training session and be able to perform the way Arne wants to play. So I think that's the main thing. Yeah, I'll get a phone call here, so I'll put my phone on. So. Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, of course it is. So, Stijn, just on that, you mentioned the kind of amalgamation, the bringing together of the medical and the performance department. Why do you think that was necessary, and how does that differ from what you've had in the past? Because you've got extensive experience in the Premier League and various national teams. How does that differ at Feyenoord to what you've had before?
Well, I think within my career, it's always been interesting, the different coaches, the different playing styles, the different coaching styles, the different players, yeah? And I think within the structure, we made it sure that the player is always central in the process and that we created an individual approach to enhance the team performance. And able to do that, I think it's very important that you have a clear vision and a clear strategy how you want to support the technical staff and the coaching with his playing style. And in the past, I've worked in clubs and big clubs and a lot of departments with department heads and egos and different visions, because some departments remain at the club and the football vision changes. So within the new structure, we really emphasized a lot the football vision and how Feyenoord wants to play. And then we got a manager who perfectly fitted into the system, and then actually the football style of Arne Slot became DNA of Feyenoord, and we translated that in a very good training vision. And able to do so, you need to excel. Every specialist need to be able to excel in their responsibility. Everybody needs to have the trust to be able to have enough voice in the process in what they excel. And that's what we do. So by changing the medical and performance structure, into one department. That was step one. Step two, we appointed 2 heads of performance, which has always been different than other clubs where I worked, and where one is more specialized in periodization and the physical framework that we provide to the manager to work in on daily basis, on mid and long term. And 2, we have another head of performance who's really specialized in dynamic systems, in movement analysis, and who can translate this on daily basis into the gym and especially onto the pitch with all the individual aspects that come to a holistic approach to maximize performance. And that could be from meditation to breathing to ice bath to whatever you need, nutritional, to get the maximum and to inspire constantly the individual, the player, to maximize the performance. I think we managed really well to raise the bar in staff DNA and to give the people enough freedom to work within their speciality. And that's also our manager, who buys into the system and who buys into the belief that everybody in the team, if it's now the chef, the kitman, the heads of performance or whatever, are really good at what they do. So you give them the freedom to excel. And I think we made that possible to change, in changing the structure and changing the strategy, and really have a good idea about, okay, what is needed for the next game, what is needed for the game after that, but what is also needed mid-term, long-term to sustain success. Yeah.
We'll get into the intricacies of what you're talking about in terms of how that translates into day-to-day workings. But Leigh, you're one of 2 heads of performance. How does that work with you in terms of how it feels to be kind of on a parallel in terms of the organizational structure with someone else rather than one over the other?
Yeah, I think it was not really something that I was accustomed to from a traditional perspective and traditional structure in a football club. And at the start, it's a little bit like a feeling out process, especially with any new staff. But the more and more time that I spend in it, working with Stijn, but also working with Ruben, my colleague, for us, it's very much yin and yang. We have very complementary skill sets, and he has areas that he's very strong in that he's upskilled me in. And I like to think the opposite is also true, but you'd have to ask him and Stijn on that front. So I would say it's rather unusual, but I would say ultimately at the end of the day, having sort of a second version of myself, an alternate reality version of myself, if you will, with different skill sets, is of unparalleled value for the playing group, actually. And that's really what it comes down to in the end, is how much value the players taking from us as a department in terms of maximizing their performance and boosting their potential level and playing, at higher and higher level throughout the course of 1 season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons. So to be able to offer many different improvement avenues and different aspects of performance is, I think, of really, really big value. So I really enjoy it, and I really speak highly of it. And I would say I would question why clubs don't do it more often if the staff DNA is right.
So let's talk about that. The staff DNA. Obviously, I'm guessing people have come in since you, Leigh. What's made the staff fit the DNA that you guys have tried to kind of put the groundwork in place with? And I suppose, Stijn, maybe it's one for you. How have you handpicked the staff to fit this DNA?
You have to have a clear vision in what you want to achieve and how you want to approach things. And I bumped into Leigh in a course I did from Dynamic Systems from French Bosch in North Carolina, I think. And I asked him there to join us. And from that moment on, I had a certain strong feeling that I want people who invest in themselves to inspire others. And we've always been looking for the academy, the turnover of staff, to preparing staff to have succession plans. We've constantly hired people, very creative, intelligent people who are very passionate about what they do. And that's one of my most important tasks, I think, to keep that flow going. So since, I think, 2.5 years or 3 years, I think I've hired 8 staff members throughout academy and first team, all with the same philosophy. And never making a compromise on what they know or how they do it, but they also have strong ideas about how they would fit in the team dynamics. So I'm a strong believer in smaller departments, but with the right staff DNA. Yeah.
So what have you taken from other organisations that you've been involved with that have had bigger staff levels? And how have you tried to, I suppose, better that by keeping it relatively small?
Yeah, getting the best people, pay them a lot, and give them a lot of freedom in what they do. Yeah, it's a little bit like Hastings in his Netflix approach, I guess.
Okay, nice.
I read the book after. When I read the book, I was like, reading a little bit what I always wanted to do. It was really interesting.
We had a little bit of a chat beforehand, and one thing that stood out to me is the club design and working down from board level to the coaching staff to the medical and performance departments. How much involvement have you had, Stijn? And I'd like to get your take on this as well, Leigh. How much involvement have you had at that kind of level, going upwards, to actually figure this DNA out and figure this structure out? Because it hasn't just been a medical and performance decision. It's been a club-wide decision based on, that's my interpretation based on our conversation beforehand. Is that right?
That's correct. I think the club has been shown an enormous amount of courage to reflect and look into the mirror what they could improve, and to get specialists out there to help them to make the right decisions. I think the board has changed a few times now since I've been here, with CEOs and technical directors, but they all were strong believers of the process. And because I was one of the only ones who on that level remained at the club, I think I was strongly involved, especially medical and performance, together with Matt Wade, our strategy advisor, and CEO Dennis de Kloeze and Frank Arnezen. I think these are the key members who, And I think it's very dangerous to ask a question if a personal name is involved. I think this we do, it has to be person's proof, individual's proof. So the structure that we do to sustain success should not be dependent if Leigh or me are here. Should not be dependent if Ruben or somebody else is here. Obviously, the manager is a key position within the club. Yeah, because the football vision needs to be linking on the football vision from the manager and the club needs to be identical. Otherwise, I think that's a key position, and the CEO and etc. But we try to mature in what we do and in how the structure is created the next couple of years to make sure it's solid and it's not depending on any individuals.
Leigh, how much involvement do you have up the chain? Sorry, Stijn, go on.
Yeah, no. I was going to ask Leigh the same what he thinks, because we never talk about these things.
No pressure.
Yeah. I think you're going to ask me, Rob, how much involvement I have. Extremely little going higher up. To be honest, Stijn is there as somewhat of an enabler to sort of arrange all of the things that happen above at higher levels, to enable Ruben and myself as heads of performance to innovate, explore new things, bring in consultants, acquire new skill sets and tools that we can then go ahead and teach and invest in with the playing group. And I think someone like Stijn's role couldn't be understated, because that space to work with freedom and to not have to worry about sitting in too many meetings and politicking, so to speak, and going from meeting to meeting for us is time that we could be spending with the players. And I think if you ask the fans, if you ask the players themselves, and if you ask the owners and all the employees of the club, what is most important to them, obviously winning is one, and picking up trophies, that's a major one. And I think developing players, whether you look at that from a financial gain point of view, that you sell players on to bigger leagues, or you look at it more from a philosophical point of view of being able to be involved in a player's career, I think that's really important. And in order to do that, we need players constantly learning, constantly adapting, constantly trying new things, and constantly pushing the boundaries of their potential, and trying to become a full-time 24/7 professional athlete, and forgetting about football now, but a full-time athlete. So being one of the best athletes in the world, not one of the best footballers. And Stein allows the space for people like Ruben, myself, the medical staff, our rehab physio, all of the coaches actually, to work freely, with autonomy in that space,
Well,
which is a dream.
I think it's important to add, Rob, that what we created here is a football department. So there is no higher level, there is no lower level. We try to work all at one because we believe that everybody has their expertise and responsibility. So here you will see the CEO downstairs, sometime walking through the gym. You will see Arne having a conversation or playing padel with the kidman or whoever. Yeah. So there is no higher level. Yeah. So it's really important that the players always realize that it is one team. So we're really conscious are working towards that goal. And that everybody's approachable. Everybody, you can just knock on the door and walk in. So we also try to plant the seeds within the press to create the credibility you need to galvanize this process within the club and outside the club. So I think that's a little bit a nuance. I think that should be in it.
How important is it? And you've both mentioned it. You've both mentioned it in the last 15 minutes, and you both mentioned it beforehand. Best athletes, not just the best players. How important is that reframing for the whole club? For the whole club,
it's the basis of everything. We believe in a very energetic way of football, in a very football style that asks a lot from an athlete. And the stigma of a football player, I think we want to readdress this and make sure that they are athletes. It's completely different for me to work with these athletes than with the athletes or football players I used to work 15 years ago in the Premier League.
What's that reframing like for you, Leigh? Because you're on the ground with the guys every day.
Yeah, I'm yet to meet a player in my time here in Europe that I've sat with, and they've said, no, I kind of just want to stay here and finish off my career and save my money. Some of them end up like that, but they all say, I have dreams to play here. I have dreams to play there. I have dreams to play in the big 5 leagues. And if you want to do that, I think you have to leave in my opinion, you have to leave no stone unturned in the pursuit of being excellent. And maybe you don't get there. I never did when I was a player, but you learn lessons. Likewise. And you pick up things from it that you can take with you. And yeah, really, that's what it's all about for us in terms of being on the ground, in the mud with the pigs, so to speak. And the basis of that for us is individualization of everything. So we've spoken on the podcast before and had conversations offline about movement analysis and going into more detail of Franz Bosch systems and dynamic systems theory and motor learning theories and stuff like this. This is a big part of our training system and our approach. But that's not limited to individual mindset, individual habits on game day, teaching them things like habit stacking and ways which they can maximize their time. Of course, they play in front of, 40, 50,000 people, sometimes twice per week for large portions of the year. But outside of those times, which are extremely high stress, they have so much time that it's not football, that's not training, where they could also be making small investments, putting, $1 per day in the bank on mindset or sleep and nutrition recovery. So we really try to keep them busy, I suppose, and keep them occupied with, actually there's something here in this space that I never even knew existed before. And how they react to that is up to them. But that's a little bit how we're trying to get them to invest and evolve. And kind of like a marginal gains approach, I guess, but to everything. So yeah, that's kind of the reframing process for us.
And I hope to think they take it with them in their careers. Not all of them, but...
Yeah, we've had conversations with players who've left our training system, left our club, gone on to bigger and better things in terms of leagues. There is no better place than here right now, I think. But impressive steps that they've made, and we keep in touch with them because you develop a relationship when you push somebody that hard and when you can have some level of success. And the conversations that you always have with them are always enlightening, for better or for worse. But it's always that they missed the environment of Feyenoord. They miss the training system. They miss the people who are backroom staff. They miss the coaches. They miss the warmth of the place. And it takes you to lose something before you realize how much you really appreciated it, right? And these guys are young adults, and some of them even young teenagers. So it's after the fact. It's nice to speak to them and for them to have such great compliments when they've gone on to perhaps a club that's a bit more prestigious or has a lot of money, and they say, "Wow, Feyenoord was really what you guys do is really impressive." So that's also a proof of concept for us.
It's also, we are relentless, which is, we ask a lot from these boys. We ask a lot. We ask them to be athletes 24/7 for a whole season. It's been 2 seasons almost, yeah. So we never compromise on the plan. We never compromise on the system. So we never compromise because emotional leverage of winning a game or losing a game. So it's quite hard for these boys. But yeah, in the end, if you want to change the culture, you need to be relentless and very consistent in what you do. And I think that's also Ruben and Leigh really inspired the group on different levels, and we made sure that everything that happened remained consistent. I think we also, I can add this. We made huge steps on the biopsychosocial aspect also within the club, and integrated it into medical and performance and to the technical staff. Just to help, because you demand so much from these guys on every day, on every level. You top them up, you do individual stuff, you work with them outside the club, you go fighting with them, whatever. So we provided also a safety net to invest a lot with technical staff, manager, and all staff from 1908 in the biopsychosocial, in working with sports psychology and integrating sports psychology throughout the whole system. Yeah, I think that's also been detrimental to the process.
I'm looking at the league table here. I've got it in front of me. 10 points clear with a game in hand. The game left. So it's been an incredible season for you guys. Let's get into the detail. What's been the key factor to enable that to happen this season from a on the ground day-to-day working? I'm going to come to you first, Leigh.
That's a really interesting question. My first reaction is there is no one key factor. Just the same as there is no one key person or staff department that is killer. It's a mixture of all things. But I think it's important to say that we had quite a successful season last season. We didn't win anything, but we progressed quite far in Europa Conference League, which was big for us. And this season we sold, at the beginning of the season, we had sold a whole bunch of our players. I think we purchased 14 new players, Stijn, at the start of this season, and they came from
15 players in total.
Yeah, so they came from all parts of the world. So you can imagine we have players from Brazil, from Northern Europe, Nordic countries, from Slovakia, from everywhere. So adapting these players into our training system, which in itself with fantastic new coaching staff is relatively in its infancy, was a big challenge. But I think you have to give massive credit, of course, to the staff, but also to the playing group, that they were so receptive and so hungry and ready to digest all of these things. So it's kind of like what I alluded to before, making individualized development plans for all of them when they first arrive, if they're Dutch or if they arrive from outside Europe or in another country in Europe. Where is it that they want to go? What are their goals? What are their dreams? From that point on, okay, you've told us you want to get to here. That means that we're going to hold you accountable to this goal or to this dream, and we're going to push you in the way that you're moving. We're microdosing every day, speed and agility. And again, I allude to our previous podcast chat, Rob, about on all things sort of movement analysis and contextual patterns in football, speed and acceleration, start and acceleration, top speed, lateral movement, all of the things that pertain to football, but the way our coach would like to play. Outside of the club, everything from, also mentioned it a little while ago, food, sleep, recovery, mindfulness, getting your mindset right. We've had a couple of consultants that we've brought in where we've been able to get them to upskill us as staff, get them to work directly with the players, and then us to continue on and have consultants come back and forth throughout the season to maintain those doses of fresh expertise. So yeah, I think it's all a bit of a whirlwind when they first come, because it's like, whoa, this is maybe very different. Not saying that no other clubs do that. Of course, they all have their own way of working, but we've sort of got a big package where we put each player in the center, and you can imagine all around the outside of the player is all of those, prongs of professionalism that I mentioned. And then we're trying to find out, okay, which players have weak threads going out to these, different areas. One player is just moved from South America and he always gets takeout food. Okay, then we need to address this. Another player has sleeping patterns that keep him up until 1, 2 every night. And so when we travel for games, that's really difficult. And if you imagine that player in the middle and all of those little aspects around them with like a sort of spider's web connecting all of those things, any of those sort of weak threads, we want to make those as strong as possible so that they have a world-class support network around them, and then push them, like Stijn said, to the limit for our coach and for our playing style.
I think, Rob, if you zoom out a little bit of Medicline Performance, I think it's been massive. Obviously, the coaching drills and the coach, the training sessions, they love the training sessions, which absolutely helps each process that you want to motivate them. But also, I think the winter break played a crucial role in this season. For us, it was like God's gift, because we had 15 players from different countries. We had 12 games. We managed those 12 games to have good results. And then after 12 games, we had very few internationals at that moment in time, also like our striker and very important players who needed time to develop to the level that they became after the winter break. So in the winter break, we had very well-planned idea of, okay, let's push them really to the limit and get them even fitter. We had a discussion with Ruben, Leigh, and Arne. We have a plan to be able to do so, but it might take some risks, blah, blah. So, but eventually it was a very, very good winter pre-season. So we came
out... It's like a second pre-season last time because of the World Cup.
Second pre-season. So he could make sure the automatisms, the schabloon and how you want to play, that it got into the team. We could train and play every game, every time. And then we went into January and we outworked every opponent. It was unbelievable. We raised the bar with 20 to 25% on physical output after this break. So I think we went into the break on top of the league, and mentally and physically we took the momentum and we didn't budge anymore, and we just stayed on top. I think so. I think that with this team and all the pieces of the puzzle fell right. I think if you would have looked at a normal season, it might have been more difficult to sustain success for such a long period within the season. So yeah, that's a little bit out zooming, but yeah.
One thing we spoke about beforehand, Stijn, was the high availability that you've managed to maintain throughout the season. We'll get into the detail with Leigh in a second, but from your perspective, keeping that kind of more high-level view, what do you think's been the key to keeping that at such a high percentage?
Well, I'll give you an example. If you're not fit, you're not a good player. The most important thing is to be available for the manager. So that's priority number one. If you're not available, we can't talk about performance or maximizing performance. So availability is everything. But we do believe that training is the best vaccine against injuries or whatever. Yeah? So we train hard and smart. But everybody says that. What I think is detrimental is that the trust we get from the manager and his team. We bring in a striker, for example, or a player. He costs a lot of money. And we tell the manager, after 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, it's going to take us 3 to 4 months before he can play 2 games a week. Any manager in the past would have said, that's not going to work, Stinny. We need him every Saturday. But because we get the trust and the space to develop those players on a very well foundation of knowledge, and we said to the manager, Trust us. Give us 6 weeks. Give us 12 weeks, and we'll get you this player. He will be much more effective in your playing style. And the manager agrees to this. Yeah, I think that's first condition to be able to do what we do. So again, it's going back to have the trust in your expertise. With I always say you're only as good as the people around you, but that's definitely the case here. And so then a whole process comes in place where we say, okay, this player we need to get fitter because he will never remain fit, or his performance will not be maximized to his potential. Then we go work. We know that the player won't play or start the game, but he will be on the bench, which is a huge difference in periodization and individual approach. You can put much more work in it if you know the manager is only going to use him 20 minutes. And this is the process that we do together. And then with the staff of Ruben, Leigh, and the whole medical and performance staff, we can top him up. We can do whatever it needs to be for him. Yeah, and then you have to. The proof is in the pudding, they say. In January, then he explodes and has one great performance after another, I think. And then now it's up to Leigh to explain the details. But I think that's, again, something that you need to create to be able to give your staff the freedom and the responsibility to work and do what they do best.
Leigh, set you up nicely there.
Alley-oop. I wasn't listening. No, I'm just kidding. I think on the ground level, it's obviously important to say that ultimately the coach has the big inspirational role, and his staff for all the playing group. And football is leading. They say that also in Holland all the time. Football is leading, and it's very clear from our perspective how the coach wants to play and the playing style. So from being able to, the way to, in my opinion, create the availability that we've been able to have 95% last season, our starting sort of 12, 13, if you include one or two players who rotate in this season, also above 90%. It comes through players really, like Stijn alluded to before, really enjoying the training sessions, really being super motivated to train each day because the coaches put on such great footballing sessions. So they don't want to miss anything because, one, they love it, but two, they feel like if they do miss something, 1 or 2 days, unless they absolutely have to because they've ruptured something or are unable to train, if they miss 1 or 2 days, they don't want to miss out on any opportunity where other boys could be pushing and getting a little bit fitter. And that's sort of a little bit the training mentality from a footballing side I think our coaches have installed, which is fantastic. When you blend that then with really smart periodization, which to be honest comes a lot from Ruben, my colleague's expertise, planning of training with physical, technical, tactical parameters all blended together really nicely with the same idea to make sure that we push really hard and we overload in certain areas, but we don't push too far and there's not big shocks going through the body. I think you can't underestimate the power of this. And then lastly, the movement, which again is something that I really am fascinated by, and I am biased towards thinking makes a massive difference on an individual level, is the way that they move, how frequent they're training, the micro doses, but the daily plus micro doses when we're in 2-game weeks of constraints-based and motor learning informed speed and agility sessions on the field, pre-training every single day, in the strength, post-session, in the evening sometimes for some players even. Those little mini sessions, coupled with the fact that we are testing them constantly and saying, you need to get faster, you need to be able to decelerate and turn quicker, you need to be able to be stronger in joules. When we motivate them with those sort of feedback loops of performance testing, and we push them each day to do something small and just invest $1, I think those three things, the football enjoyment, the smart periodization, and the movement quality and movement literacy, I guess, they make the ingredients for a motivated but robust and efficient group. And I think robustness is earned. I also learned that from people that mentored me and helped me a lot, people that you know, like John Pryor, Nick Lumley. Also, robustness is trained and it's earned through smart but hard training. So that's what I think about it.
Would you give? You mentioned the smart periodization, and Ruben been over that side of things. Would you be able to give us a bit of an example of maybe something that Ruben's put in place in terms of periodization where you've gone, that's good, great,
Ruben,
yeah, he's done really well there. Any examples that you could give us?
I can give you a little bit.
Yes.
An overview. It's every morning we have a meeting with medical and performance, and then we have obviously a plan on a week or a cycle depending on which moment in the season you are. But every day the manager gets a physical framework in which he can work. And not, I think only once or twice or in 2 seasons, he did not kept to that physical framework. The manager is a really strong believer of the physical framework that he works in. If we say so much axles decels, so much sprints, or you have to train within 40 meters, or in a very simple and clear way, Ruben can explain to the manager in what framework he needs to remain, then you solve so many problems on forehand. I give you an example. We were playing a European game, and I was speaking to an UEFA delegate, and he said, listen, this is the first time in my career as a UEFA delegate that I see a team walk back in after half an hour while they have an hour on the pitch. But if Ruben and Leigh and the whole team decides half an hour is enough for physical framework because the team, they are tired or this or that in the cycle or whatever, the manager trusts his staff to say after half an hour, okay guys, all in. And then sometimes you have people or players, individual, whatever, who wants to do something more. No, it's clear because you get the support from the top. So maybe Leigh can give more. Everything is periodized. We can look into the schedule and I can see what those guys do. The framework, the individual sessions, the top-ups, if it's meditation, visualization, everything is planned and periodized. So it's really interesting. But maybe Leigh can give an example of a week where you also speak about what they do outside the club. It's also periodized. It's also planned and communicated with external partners. So it's more. We also want to evolve to an American system where athletes use whoever they want to use in good communication with us with the same philosophy. Leigh?
Yeah, I think it was a good example, Stein, but maybe another example, Rob, is like, again, I'm stepping a little bit into Ruben's area of expertise, but we share everything, so I'm sure he won't mind as long as I don't bastardize his work too much. But we give the framework for the coach to work in, and for example, our stress comes in waves throughout the week. That's nothing groundbreaking. It's the usual, I would say, in most clubs and most sports. But for example, we will say on a midweek day, the day before a day off, okay, today is an extensive day. There's going to be much bigger spaces involved. You can do 11v11, 8v8, 9v9, whatever you like. We want to keep it to sort of this individual percentage limit for sprints, for high intensity distance. In our movement skills block at the start of training, we're going to sprint with them while they're fresh. And that will be where we introduce our movement skills block, where we're focusing on efficiency, but getting faster and faster. And when the medical performance and the technical staff all start to understand that a little bit, we've had some of our best players and our highest paid ones speaking to Ruben and I or Stein before the training session saying, hey, what are we doing in training today? Okay, it's big spaces. Yeah, we're going to sprint at the start. I want to make my card on the wall, which has all my performance metrics. Leigh, today I'm going to hit 35 Ks per hour. Let's go in the start of the session. When we do the sprints, I'm there, Ruben's there, the head coach is there, sometimes medical is there, and the coach is saying, come on, let's go. And all the boys are sprinting, looking around, everyone's going hard. And also medical is also there like, come on, you need to get through this. The sprinting is really important for your body and for your hamstrings or whatever. Then I think it's culture is hitting players from all angles, and it's really helpful for their drive and for them to push extremely hard in every session. And then of course we have different types of days in that respect as well. And we're always looking retrospectively at the data and communicating that back to, was it the sweet spot? Was it too much? Was it too little? And bigger overviews. And as Stein mentioned, you have that American style model now, which is becoming more and more prominent also in football or European football, that players have personal trainers, they have physiotherapists, they have people working with them on the side, and they're starting to build that sort of support network around them for their careers, which is, in a way, it's fantastic. In another way, it can present problems because if there's not clear communication about it and it's not planned or periodized for the right times, you can spike someone too hard, or someone can go and work with somebody who's not had communication with someone at the club. They push too hard, and the following day, or in the following week, they get injured. That's a problem. So Stein's been really instrumental in setting up a sort of trusted partners network for us here at the club, where we have people outside that we link up with in all walks of life and all types of expertise. Some cold exposure and breathing coaches, some kickboxing. There's a really strong kickboxing culture in Holland. I don't know if you know, Rob, but kickboxing and mixed martial arts. So as an example, before a day off, a player might train really hard in the morning session, and in the afternoon, he's checking with us, hey, is it possible if I go to the kickboxing instructor this afternoon, can you give him a call and tell him what's useful to do? And he's doing that because we've decided, he needs a little bit of aggression, and he needs to, not let people push him around, and he needs to learn how to throw a punch. And he'll go and do that, and we can speak to that person and say, listen, only boxing today, he trained real hard in the morning, push him hard, tomorrow needs to be a rest day. And I think that also works from another motivational point of view, because it's also good to get outside of the four walls that you see all year round, 330 days or whatever it is, to freshen you up a little bit. And when you have good partners that you can build relationships with as well, players can go in the evening and do something extra light. It's not to the detriment of the training system and the training program that we are trying to run for the week. We feel like it's inevitable that people will go and look for those extra things, and we want to reward it and cooperate with them rather than try to squash it and say, nope, don't do this. It's going to ruin our numbers or our periodization or whatever. So it's inevitable, and we want to support them in that aspect.
Not every organisation will have the opportunity to bring in consultants, specialists in a particular area. But Stijn, is there any particular area that you've just had huge success when bringing a consultant on board and has really moved things forward?
Yeah, I think we had some different kinds of consultancy over the last 2 seasons. And it's growing atmosphere. This season, the culture is also that the manager said to me, could you get this guy in for a day? Or Leigh came, could you get this guy in or this guy in? But last season it was a very decision of the team. If we had a retrospective evaluation of the season, what can we do better? Why have we lost the final? Why do we not win from our strongest opponent sometimes? So we said, okay, with everything we demand, we'll get in a biopsychosocial, we'll look into these areas. And then we looked at other disciplines of sports, how they do it, like cycling. Jumbo-Visma we went to visit, and they came here. Went to other sports psychology in other sports we had a look at. And Leigh came with, we brought in Dan Abrahams, sports psychologist from the UK. It was really interesting, and I think Leigh can explain this better. But that was, to answer your question, one of the consultants who actually changed the process in a positive way, in a very good way, I think, with limited presence. Because I'm a strong believer when you get in consultants and you want to improve something, you have to improve the staff at the ground. So when you bring in a sports psychologist, you want to educate the manager to become a better manager. You want to educate Leigh to become a better head of performance. You want to educate me. You want to educate the kitman to have a better psychology approach. So, and you want one approach. Yeah, you don't want, if somebody has a mental issue or you think he needs to be more assertive or whatever, that you send them to somebody. Or you say, go to speak to him. No, we had to create a whole platform or to answer different needs and questions of players. We brought in different consultants regarding the biopsychosocial aspect. I think Leigh can explain a little bit about the biopsychosocial aspect of Dan Abrahams, how interesting that was, and added to the terminology that we use at Feyenoord. It got embedded into how we spoke to each other. It got embedded to how we spoke during halftime, the manager, how he spoke to the players. And so all these little pieces. Leigh, maybe you can elaborate a little bit on this.
Yeah, I don't want to step on Dan's toes too much. I'll do my best, but I think what you allude to, Stein, is actually shared mental models. And for example, our coach has his own shared mental model of how our playing style is, and that's something that a group shares all together. Players know that they attackers make deep runs in behind. They know that when we lose the ball, we want a counter pressing style that smothers the team and you get the ball back. This is all largely tactical things. But if I could speak to Dan's input, what he did is brought in a shared mental model about mindset. And if I steal his work a little bit, a high performance mindset, he actually brought in a whole new language around how you prepare yourself mentally to perform for games, to train, actually throughout the whole week. And that language seeped through the entire staff, also to the playing group. Of course, there's some little jokes and gags about it here and there with the playing group, especially in this period now where we're a little bit more relaxed. But when it comes to high stress situations, I think they were super valuable, and perhaps you'd link up with him, Rob, quite nicely, for a fellow countryman of yours. I don't know if you've spoken to him before, but
I have, mate,
he could speak more. Yeah, he could speak more to the detail of what he did here with us. But he's been fantastic from afar. Visited a lot of times. Our coach has been excellent and receptive with bringing him in and having him come back and constantly speaking together. The staff's been really great to accept it, like Stein said, all as one group. And yeah, just like simple add-in things that we can all sort of approach. Like Dan introduced the concept of a game face to all the players, which is like a competitive persona. People can find that in his books, obviously, Soccer Tough. But he brought that in and sat with players on multiple different occasions throughout the season, developing a game face that they can fall back on training days, pre-game, in-game, halftime, to I suppose like boost their mental resilience and have them be performing at a mental level the same as we would expect from a physical. Because, like I said before, you play in front of thousands of fans 2 times per week for the whole year round. That's super stressful. It doesn't matter, what age you are, or if you look at it from whose perspective. It is super stressful. So we feel, as a performance department, and the coaches are with us, that stress management is therefore low-hanging fruit. How do we cope in high-stress situations, and how do we thrive? And Dan really helped us out with that a lot. So props to Dan.
You also brought other consultants about scanning and whatever. So you constantly need to try to raise the bar by inspiring yourself and your staff and your players. So yeah, it's a constant work in progress. Like now we're going to the Champions League. We won the championship. So we need to reinvent. We have to keep doing the same things, but even reinvent ourselves a little bit. Yeah, we need to keep pushing the limits and motivate the individual to give it another year, full on.
Yeah, I think clubs get consultants in, and sorry, Rob. Clubs get consultants and stuff in all the time, right? In sports and in football, it's nothing groundbreaking either. But the difference a little bit was, I remember we were on a training camp in Portugal for that for the World Cup break, and Dan was there with us, and he gave a team presentation, and the staff was there, and for me that was like probably a long-term memory that I will consolidate and keep with me for a long time, because just the feel in the room then was quite a nice thing to be a part of, with him and the coach sharing a presentation together. And then afterwards, the staff sat and had a drink together and had a discussion. That's not something that I would think is normal. I don't have like 30 years of experience, but maybe Stein can speak more to that. But it felt like it was something that was unique and a little bit precious, I guess.
Yeah, I think on those moments, even if you have an informal chat over a drink, we are so passionate. We still look for ways to improve and to digest the day and to make the next day better. And as I said, the consultants are only good or effective if the whole team takes it on board. I think it's really important. And obviously Ruben and Leigh play a bigger role because they are much more on top or close to the lips of the players. Yeah. But everybody needs to understand why you do something and what's the possible advantages, again, compared to the opposition. We constantly look for things to do that the opposition wouldn't do, but not because of the sake of it. No, because what is best for the individual and the team. We don't just do things because we think, we'll do this because the other guys don't do this. No, needs to be well thought over.
We've only got a few minutes left, and again, I've still got this table here with you 10 points clear. You've got Champions League next season. Name one thing, and I'll go to both of you for this. Stijn, I'll come to you first. One thing that is going to kick this on again next season. What's the one thing that you aim to improve, even though you've had such success this season?
Leigh can start.
Stijn.
I'm glad
Go
it's
on.
you first.
Stijn,
It has
what
to
do
be
you think?
one thing.
Yeah.
Give us as many as you want. 2 things, 3 things. We've only got a few minutes left, though.
Yeah, well, we prepared already. We created a data and innovation hub to support us, and we hired a new member of staff. That's one thing. And the second thing, we are going to revamp the place so players, when they come back, that they have the feel, okay, all these guys, they really mean what they say, and the club has ambition, and the manager's still here, and everybody's here, and we get some more players, and then it's up to us again to do a good job. I think the bases are here. I don't think you need to change one thing to be successful, because we got it pretty good on the rails. I think everybody needs to look within themselves, I think, me as a person, Leigh as a person, to evolve as a person, privately and professionally, to raise the bar for the team. And I think the players should do the same, the coaches, and I really strongly believe that everybody will do the same. And it's like a journey where you evolve as a person and as a professional to improve what you are doing. And if everybody has the same passion about this, I'm sure you can be successful, even upcoming years.
Yeah, tough question again. I think everything that we've spoken about actually today, from individualized plans for training, education around sleep, recovery, nutrition, the mental model, the shared mental model, so high performance mindset, and more. All of that this season, what we've been doing actually, I take this opportunity to give a little shameless plug, Rob, for the SPP app, is we've been integrating that into the SPP app in a prototype version. And I give the plug because it's useful for our players, but it's all there actually cataloged as resources that are sitting on all of the players' phones and devices, all of the iPads in the club. And the fact that it's down there as written information and stuff that we can always return to, and they can return to at any point in the season, at any time of day, on any training day, I really feel is a big key point of difference for us. And Stein's done amazing work to get to the point where that is just all of the medical staff, all of the coaching staff, all the performance staff. Let's get you on this program. I need you to read about sleep a lot more, or we're going to speak about mental models, and we're going to use this module in the app to help you. And I think moving forward, the implementation of that and further iterations of that in the future are really exciting for the playing group that are used to it, that are staying around next year, which hopefully is a lot of them, but also adopting new players and adapting them to the coach's style and to the level that we play at, which is Champions League. So I'm really excited about that.
I fully agree that the SPP app has also inspired everybody. When I walk into the gym at 7 o'clock, every staff member drips in. I think there's only one staff member who's not in the gym of the whole training ground. Even Matt Wade is in the gym. And they are all on their phones using the SPP app because the app is so different from other things, because when you open it, it's like the gym and the people you're in it. Yeah, you are motivated. I think these are examples of how we try to innovate and how to inspire on the level of the player. Yeah, I'm 46 years old. We need stuff like this to get on that level of the 20-year-old, 21-year-olds to get them better. So yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you very much from my end.
No, thank you very much. We're coming up to not far off an hour. So I'll firstly say thank you very much for lining this up. Secondly, thank you for lining it up at such short notice before you shoot off for the off-season. Congratulations on a great season. Where can people find out more about you? Stijn, are you a social media person or not? Nah.
I think it's
Good.
important to remain in the shadows.
You're
I
not
genuinely,
wrong.
I genuinely believe this. I think that the to be in the light, it's more for the coaches, the players, and we should just work hard and innovate in the background. Yeah, and obviously I'm on social media and all of kind of things. I'm also human, but no. I think it's more up to Leigh and to Ruben and people who are really on the floor between the players, who really inspire them from day to day, and who work on things like the SPP app, people should have a look at.
And Leigh, where can people find you?
Yeah, the usual suspects, the Instagrams and Twitters. That's pretty much it, really. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. Say again,
Okay.
Stan.
Australia.com. You can find him there.
Yeah, you can find me in Australia in the off season, that's for sure.
Right, guys,
Thank
I'll
you.
let you shoot. But thank you very much. Really appreciate your time. And chat to you both soon.